All right, so we've been talking a lot this episode and the last episode about the rise of the right wing's intellectual interest in fascism, increased intellectual ink being spilt on, fascy sort of anti-majoritarian ideas and that sort of thing. And there were a couple of interactions this week that have once again spawned a bit of debate on our side about how do we engage or deal with the political right? Is it, I mean, for lack of better terms, is it essentially see a Nazi, punch a Nazi? Is there, yeah, right, beat on the brat with a baseball bat sort of approach? I feel you. I feel you. Or is it a situation wherein the ideas are like the horse is out of the barn here at this point, and the ideas have to be confronted and debated on some level, because they're not just going to die in the darkness because they now have had their president.
Well,
In the
this is
last segment, we were talking about like the Rubicon sort of moment, and this is one of these sort of like intellectual Rubicon sort of moments where maybe we have crossed over. So that is the debate that has spawned up. Real quickly, let me get y'all's take on that.
so the left is still suffering under the delusion that if they can just get through to people, they'll all become leftists instead of encouraging right wingers to stop like creeping towards authoritarianism and return to their core values of freedom and the stuff that they care about and have a policy debate between rational people. Like, you're not going to turn most of these people into leftists. That's not going to happen. And it is a waste of time and energy to try and do that. But you can convince them to return to what used to be conservative principles. And you're going to disagree with them a lot, but I would rather disagree with a conservative than a fascist.
That would definitely be the preferable outcome. I don't know about the merits of debating them, especially like structured debate. Like some of these online the online ones have been really just, they're horrible. Everybody's like it's such a science of like Gish Gallop, just throwing out as many points. Even if you're trying to, they're just going to throw out as many points, and you're not going to be able to refute all of them because
Well, no,
they're word vomiting at you. It's
debating people
old school.
online is a waste of time. I'm talking about like people you know in real life. Arguing online is an idiot's game.
Sure.
But the thing is it's frustrating, but because you look around and you see the numbers, but you got to understand how close this stuff is. If you can talk to 20 people and one of them says, hey, you're right, we need to walk this extreme stuff back and have a more rational policy disagreement, you've changed every election in the land if everyone can reach one of 20 people.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I mean, I think y'all are espousing viewpoints I'm at least like receptive to. Like, first and foremost, I agree, Robert. Anyone who thinks if we go out and we debate these people, we will convert them to recant away from right wing politics to, oh, how wrong I was. I think that's really unlikely. I really, at this stage of the game, I'm like you, Robert. I think that the best you can hope for is conservatives. You convert them back away from this sort of new fascism towards, standard libertarian conservative ish sort of thing. Or an idiosyncratic person who, maybe has like a few liberally wrinkles where they're cool about this or that or whatever. For me, when I'm thinking about debate and like, I think it's good to do the interpersonal debate with people, although I'll admit sometimes I lose patience. It's hard when you're like constantly reading about this stuff at a 400 level. Like it gets really, like to give someone a history lesson, it's hard to like package that in a way that's not patronizing, but also is within 30 seconds. Like, allow me to tell you in 30 seconds how Joe Manchin's been sabotaging, politics inside of the country here for the better part of like the last decade, right? Like,
But that comes to your point there. If there's one thing that we know how to do on our side, it's how to take a loss and keep going for what you believe in. That's something that's an experience we can share plenty of.
Yeah. So I mean, I think when you get like, I mean, Vaush and Malcolm Nance is an even better example. These are people I'm not trying to hang my sign as. These guys represent my politics per se. I think when these guys have a strong outing against a person like a Ben Shapiro or a person like a Charlie Kirk, and like, well, I don't think that the debate about critical race theory between Vaush and Charlie Kirk is like required watching to better understand critical race theory. Where I do think it serves some serious utility is like Kirk got like outclassed just through the entirety of that conversation. And if that rattles someone who is a Charlie Kirk watcher to stop watching Charlie Kirk, I think that is of merit on some level, because sort of working on this like the other way around. The big problem, I think we'd all agree, has been you get on YouTube and you will eventually get algorithmically suggested Joe Rogan, who's talking to Charlie Kirk, who's talking to this guy. They go on Dave Rubin's show with the battlefield of ideas is fully explored. And Dave Rubin used to be in a facile way, like, you know, doing somewhat of a liberal defense of things just to get knocked over by whoever the conservative was. But you see this like, you know, circular media thing. And I think there's actually some utility in these people, especially when they're really comfortable, like a Charlie Kirk, like a Ben Shapiro, getting outclassed when they think it's going to go really well.
I mean, I'll always take Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro taking an L like on while it's being recorded. That's always great, but it's like
well, I want to differentiate
like,
that outclassed from just regular run of the mill owning. You know what I mean? When someone's actual communication style and their ability to formulate ideas is just shown to be at a level below. Like, I mean, listening to Vaush formulate his ideas, he clearly just thinks at a higher level. Not just that his politics are more correct than Kirk's, but like he's just clearly a smarter dude than Kirk. And that comes through in the broadcast.
So are you talking about just the difference between someone with debate skill and someone who's obviously done their homework and knows the issues inside out, upside down, and backwards?
Yes, yeah. It's not it's like when a person who thinks that there's the flat earth. This is a great episode. I found it a while ago. This radio show in Austin where they actually had like a flat earth guy who was like one of the leading experts in flat earth debating like a real astronaut who's like legitimately actually went to space. It's not about your debate tactics at that point. The person himself sort of serves as like a resounding defense of the argument and the position.
I mean, sure, I absolutely I don't know. I think we all think that we're astronauts.
But we're not all astronauts, and that's what I mean. I think it's good when someone who thinks they are an astronaut actually has to deal with. It's like when someone who thinks they're a karate master actually has to deal with a real karate master.
It's the
Why am I on the floor and why does my head hurt?
Steven
I
Seagal,
thought I knew so much about karate earlier.
Steven Seagal suggesting to a master that nobody can choke him out, only to crap his pants.
Yeah, the Gene LaBelle story. Yeah. Where he goes up to Gene LaBelle, submission specialist, and he's like, "No one can choke me out and get out of any hold." LaBelle chokes him out, and I've heard mixed stories on it, but I think these stories lean towards it is true that he crapped his pants at the end of that. Yeah.
That's what I choose to believe.
No, that's a perfect example. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a fight where it goes 10-9. I am talking about like a knockout, embarrassing outclassing.
You're talking about when Bubba down the street with a blue line flag hops in the ring with a 10-year MMA fighter.
Exactly. And I think so. I think those moments are of utility. I mean, to this point, I want more Sam Cedar, like basically the Steven Crowder moment. What was that of? That's why did Crowder run? If this wasn't useful, a guy like Crowder doesn't run, right? Like, if Crowder thought, no, there's utility in me staying here and actually going at it with Sam Cedar, he would have done it. But Crowder knew there's nothing good that is going to come of me and my audience seeing me go to town with Sam Cedar. Only harm is going to come from this.
Yeah, you'll notice Ben Shapiro doesn't go on anyone else's show where his editors aren't in play.
No, and that's why the Maher thing, I think, caught him so flat-footed. He went on Maher to promote this book. For those of you who haven't seen this, again, not required watching. But he goes on Maher's show, definitely not required watching, to talk about this book about cancel culture. Like that the left is engaging in new it's essentially, I mean, really, Jonah Goldberg, I hope, sues Ben Shapiro because like what Ben Shapiro has just written is liberal fascism only 8 years later. With a book that Goldberg's like now was like, no, that was a dumb book. I should have written that. And of course, Ben Shapiro's doing it again. And Bill Maher, eventually gets to, well, I read the book. Think that you're saying some stuff that I agree with. Remember, this is Bill Maher. He's worried about cancel culture. He's worried that someone's going to finally Me Too him. But even Maher's like, I read this book and I go, where's the other half of this book? And you can see Ben Shapiro's face just turn like it never even occurred to him that Maher was going to do anything other than coddle him and have a wonderful conversation. Like Shapiro hasn't learned from the Andrew Neil thing. So that's the other thing is like you can press this button multiple times is the other thing we were learning.
So, a lot of people talk about him, but how dangerous do you think that Ben Shapiro is outside of his show? Like if he were to run for something, how does this guy survive a debate?
No, I think Cenk Uger sort of demonstrated in a way that like you can be big in politics punditry, and that doesn't necessarily port into you being a really good political candidate. I mean, think about it. Like we haven't. It's not like if Maddow ran, she could probably win representative, but would state she winning Senate, and I think it'd be a hard Senate fight.
Yeah. Well, it's like Rush Limbaugh never ran for anything. And I think that's because he knew that outside of his set, he would get trounced on so many things that he never spoke outside of his own editors and stuff.
There comes like these things definitely have use for knocking these guys down. And I guess it's like, it's helped to, kind of sideline and isolate people like Alex Jones. It helps to sideline them, but like that definitely has merit. It's just how to like engaging with anything, like engaging with them after that, or like then they go back to their holes, and then what do? You want to try and chase them there?
No, you can't chase them, and they're going to do damage control. Those are granted. I mean, no, there has to be real purviews on this. Again, like I don't want anyone to just try their hand to go and debate a right winger because, like that, actually, to y'all's point, which I agree on, if. This is why Shapiro used to go and try to debate undergrads, right? Because they want that. That's punching the random guy in the crowd. That in a way, that's karate master going up against a bunch of young shits who think that they are karate masters. And and Ben Shapiro, who's a blue belt, is just kicking all their asses.
It's Axl Rose jumping in the mosh pit.
Yeah. So, you can't. You can't hang with that one. But if you're really prepared, and you bring your A game and your version, your presentation, it's dude, like to y'all's point about debate, yes, it can be absolute gish gallop and that sort of thing, but it also can be a really compelling presentation to persuade an audience done correctly. You just have to, at a certain point, almost start not even like you're not talking at that person anymore. You're working down the tunnel at the person and you're grabbing their audience. I mean, honestly, I'd even do a little bit of handsy stuff if I was debating, just to really make sure that I'm locking them in.
It's a negotiating tactic, like with the flat earthers. Part one is you discredit them entirely and quickly. And part two is you move on without them and present new ideas and you do hand gestures.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, here's the other thing too. If we could wish these guys away, it would have worked by now. I mean, we tried to laugh them out of town in 2015. I mean, that's my thing. Is it's like, look, I don't want to engage them. I'm just thinking, practically speaking, we ignore them. I think at our own peril. We act like they just go away, but we just don't see them.
We did ignore them at our own peril, and look where we are now.
Exactly. All right, let's we got one more topic, don't we? Yeah. Oh yeah. Real quickly, speaking about the fever dream here. I just want to end on this because like you will hear this in the coming weeks. Conservatives are now trying to argue that Biden violated the Constitution. And he violated the Constitution with, of all things, the eviction ban. The argument goes as follows. There was a challenge to the eviction ban last time by landlords. It went up to the Supreme Court. In a concurring opinion, Brett Kavanaugh said that any additional challenges or any additional eviction bans, he would likely rule as not being constitutional. Likely, but he never said that explicitly, and he didn't rule that way at that point. Biden cited this when he was trying to get out of extending the eviction ban. Pressure was brought to bear on him by Cori Bush and others, and the eviction ban has now been extended by the administration, essentially daring the courts. Conservatives, and when I say this, I mean even never Trump conservatives, they're choosing this one as like a way of proving their bona fides that they're still conservatives, which I guess in this case means you're still just a giant fucking dick. Who really doesn't understand the Constitution. Like, they're basically arguing that because Kavanaugh said he might rule against it in the future, likely so, and Joe Biden cited that and said it's unconstitutional at some point, or like that phrase was connected in a sentence, that effectively that alone makes Biden's reversal of course an unconstitutional action. And this is not just merely where MAGA is at these days. This is where like my serious college educated conservative friends are at these days. And like that, I mean, that's the real problem here. Is it like, how do you reach people when they're starting from that point?
Well, yeah, from here, it looks like a lot of the base crowd is just they're struggling with object permanence because they've had 10 years really of the outrage of the day and who you should be mad at today, and like there's no consistency on from issue to issue, and it's just gotten to where they can just say anything. It doesn't have to mesh with what they said yesterday.
I almost wish they would, though, on the eviction moratorium, right? Like, I want them to go, we're fighting for the landlords, like, fuck the renters, it's not, because they've even said things like it's not fair to the renters, and I'm like, yeah, you should have the right to be evicted by your landlord. No, fight on this one. Like, you want to help Joe Biden win the midterms.
Most renters are in cities and they're Democrats, so they figure it won't hurt their numbers.
Yeah, I mean, but there are renters in red states too.
There's a lot of renters. Yeah, there's renters all over.
Purple states as well.
But I mean, I liked Biden going against like even if it is an unconstitutional move, it's like, all right, make them go through however many weeks of litigation it takes. Like, let these people stay in their homes for as many weeks as it takes them to actually like litigate it out and like drive it all up through while we work on an actual solution. Like, it was good as a time buying measure. And like, yes, I would really love for these conservatives to articulate their strong support for the discriminated class of the landlord.
Where was this for the Muslim ban, right? The Muslim ban got struck down multiple times, and he would keep doing it, and they were never like, wow, the court ruled this to be unconstitutional, and yet he's doing another one. They would say, in defense of Trump doing yet another iteration of this to just gussy up the Muslim ban. I mean, and you know, to your point, if this eviction ban gets struck down, I hope Joe Biden does another one. Because that is the rules that they set when it came to the Muslim ban. If the
change two words and put it back through.
Put it back through. Just keep doing it. Just keep moving the date forward. Yeah, they'll never rule it constitutional, but like it's a new action, and that's all that matters. The Roberts Court established that you are allowed to frivolously keep editing and improving the law and effectively have it in place up and until they go, you know what, fuck it, we just want this to be done. You know, so I mean, where I'm at is, yeah, he's doing that, but you guys made that rule. Like, you all made that with the Muslim ban. Yeah, so I want Biden to do this. And you could say it's unconstitutional, and I might agree with you, because, like, I didn't agree with what Trump was doing, but, like, it cannot be the case that there are two sets of rules, one for the Democrats and another one that allows for maximal cheating for the Republicans.
Yeah.
That's certainly what they're going for, though.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's a real problem. But you know, all we can do is kind of sound the alarm on it. And you know, here to your point though earlier about like our conversation with conservatives. I mean, I bring up these topics not because like there's any policy action or whatever, but like, look, you will have this argument with somebody at some point in the next 3 months. They'll bring it will be, you know, or at Thanksgiving, it will come up, and you need to actually, you know, if you want to, like, you know, cool someone's jets, again, not convert them, but cool their jets, that maybe this argument that they're hearing isn't all that, you know, have something ready for them. You know, you go, I don't like Joe Biden. And I'll even grant to you that this is unconstitutional. But, like, this is a model that was absolutely pioneered during the last administration, and, you know, really leaned into heavily. Dan, use your microphone, boys.
That kind of tactic is very appropriate to use it in a ruling dealing with like particularly Trump judges. It would be better if it was the Gorsuch ruling, because he was the direct person who got like rat fucked in there. But to use trickery to like buy 6 weeks against a Kavanaugh ruling is all right by me.
Yeah, I mean, look, anything that basically treats Brett Kavanaugh as a like less than justice is also quite all right to me. So like the idea that we were ever taking his jurisprudence seriously, I think was part of the problem here, and part of the indulgence that never needed to happen.
Yeah, we're going to be stuck listening to that name for the next 40 years.
Oh, that's a positive note to end things on here, but that's the note we got for this episode. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Oh, nicely done, Robert. Nicely done. Don't worry about the government. A listener-supported podcast. You can watch the whole show at patreon.com/DWATG. Please, please, please support the show this month, because your boy is getting annihilated when it comes to power bills. And your donations right now, I am for real. They're helping. Because we talked a little bit about the hot water situation. Hot Watergate continues. As I am taping this episode, we're now into like week 6. I will have 4 really over the top power bills here, including one that was like $400. And my power bill has never been higher than $150. So supporting the show, it is part of, not exclusively, it is one of like the 4 things that I do for a living. So I appreciate you supporting my work. I really do. Patreon.com/DWATG. You can follow the show at DWATG. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. So, you know, go and check stuff out over there. Dan, where can people find you on Twitter?
At DL Carpenter.
Robert, what new improvements have you made around the house to limit contact?
I'm starting to build a fence, but lumber is in short supply. Razor wire is hard to come by. But luckily, I live in a red area, so there's guns all over the sidewalk. It's no, I can.
Yeah, I try scrap metal. Like rusty scrap metal, I hear is it's very foreboding. And you get like a little bit of like a tetanus thing going on.
Bringing those Fallout 4 skills to bear on the situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you both so much for doing this show. I want to thank you all so much for listening and supporting the show. And until the next one, bye-bye.